happened here?
Sadly, it was Rayla who met with surprise. 100-yard gap gaped in the unbreachable walls of Rosberg. The fortress itself was aflame, spewing black smoke into the sky.
I don't... How? It can't be!
There was no time to consider her question, for Nilfgaardian scouts had spotted Meave's company. The Queen knew battle was inevitable, so she gave the signal to form a defensive line, then drew her blade.
Your Grace, Nilfgaardian fighters remain in the city.
Bigger they are, easier they are to target. Thing about slings, they hide well.
Of course, as you wish, master.
Scheiß! In train!
Bloody Horsens. They'll pay for this.
Can't take it anymore.
Off to the front yet again.
Quiet, or the Commissar will hear.
Eh?
I refuse to believe it. The king could not have died here.
Can't get our asses moving.
Scheiß! In train!
This artist will be reaping black-clad heads.
To the front yet again.
Our ballista, your command.
Watch for Demavend's banners! If he's here, we must find him!
The Lyrians met one note of luck in this song of woe. Rosberg had fallen, yes, but the Nilfgaardians, not expecting reinforcements from the south, had stationed only a small detachment to hold it. Meve led her men to victory and retook the fortress. Or rather, what was left of it. What they did not demolish during their assault, the Nilfgaardians burnt once inside the city. Countless charred corpses of both defenders and peasants seeking shelter from the invaders lay among the blackened ruins. Some had tried to shield their children from the fire with their own bodies. To no avail.
Gods be damned!
The Queen cried, pounding her fist against the wall. Meve was about to give the order to move on when she caught a stifled whimper coming from a pile of rubble. Her soldiers ran to the rescue, their bare hands digging through the fiery bricks.
Here! He's alive!
The man they pulled from the ruins had suffered horrible burns. His face was a stew of seared flesh and pus-filled boils, and he reeked of burnt meat. Seeing Black Rayla, the poor soul staggered to his feet and lifted a shaking hand in salute.
Engineer Lieutenant Xavier Lemons, reporting for duty.
Medic! Send for a medic!
Lemons! What the devil's happened?
I know not. The East Tower, I led the defense. Heating oil to tan Nilfgaardian hides. A catapult struck. The cauldron tipped, burst into flames. The rest, I cannot say.
The fortress fell.
Fell? Damned Scoia'tael.
What was that?
Our preparations were perfect. A month, 2 we could have lasted, but traitors were among us. Elves, dwarves, planted charges on the buttresses. An explosion shook the tower, a hole gaped in the wall. Our men threw themselves in, filling the breach.
Vermin, filthy, rotten vermin.
I know you suffer, soldier, but Queen Meve wishes to meet with your sovereign, Demavend. We must know what's become of him.
Gone, luckily. He oversaw the preparations, then returned to Aldersburg. 3 days past.
Then let us do the same. Reynard, prepare our departure.
Hold your grace. Did anyone survive? Anyone at all?
No. There were no other survivors.
How could they? An entire detachment? An entire city? The animals.
Soldier, my medics will tend to you as best they can. Then we can escort you home if...
This is my home, your grace. Rosberg. I beg you, let me join your company. Let me exact revenge.
I respect your fighting spirit, good man. But in your state...
Your grace, I can hold neither shield nor sword, but I can still fight in my own way. I'm an engineer. I build siege towers, ballistae, bridges, whatever you wish. I pray, grant me a chance.
Such pain, such ferocity resounded in Xavier's rasping, distorted voice that Meve could not refuse his plea. Once the medics had bandaged his wounds, Meve's men set out towards Aldersburg, following Demavend and the Nilfgaardians. At one point in their journey, Black Rayla rode up next to Meve. The warrior's lips were a thin line, bitten to blood.
My lady, The road to Aldersburg leads through Moulderwood, where Eldain's Scoia'tael prowl. Same filth who killed my men and delivered Rossburg to the Black Butchers.
Rayla breathed deeply to steady her furious, shaking voice.
Please, my lady, I ask you upon the holies, let us find them and destroy them.
Meve gave a slight nod. It seemed the road to Aldersburg would prove long and full of challenges.
Yes?
This Eldain. Could you tell me about him?
He should hang.
I'd hoped to hear advice that will be useful to us in battle.
First of all, you can't rightly trust the bastard. He doesn't respect our laws, doesn't share our morals. The king once dispatched an envoy to Eldain, despite my advice to the contrary. Found the envoy the next day, eyes gouged out, shaft of his white flag jammed down his throat.
So, diplomacy's clearly not the wisest course. But what of battle? What tactics does he employ?
Like all elves, he's a worm. Avoids open confrontation, sets ambushes, attacks from the shadows, from midst the trees. It would be best to burn this whole forest to the ground, deprive him and his folk of cover, any place to hide.
Sounds rather drastic. Like tossing the babe out with the bath.
Believe me, they'd not hesitate to do the same to us. Not for a moment.
Rayla, how are you holding up?
Not certain I understand what you mean.
All Edirn is aflame. Nilfgaard's banners fly over its cities. Don't tell me you're not troubled.
Of course I'm troubled. I stationed at Rosberg for 5 years. Knew all on the crew there by name. But that's war. That's its nature. No sense bemoaning it.
I see. Just know if ever you wish to talk.
I won't, but I do appreciate your concern, ma'am.
I must go. We'll speak later.
Your Majesty, I've been meaning to thank you for allowing me to join your ranks.
Certainly, Xavier. I welcome all foes of Nilfgaard to march beneath my banner. But what did the field surgeon say? Have you not resumed work too soon?
I've strength enough to wield a hammer, though my scars still burn, and fiercely so. My lady, I've seen folk turn and frown at the very sight of me. If my appearance disgusts you, I can...
Nonsense. The Nilfgaardians, not you, should be ashamed. You've no reason to hide, no reason to cower.
Thank you, my lady. It means a great deal to hear that.
You've long served in King Demoven's army, haven't you?
Yes, Your Grace.
Why enlist at all? What prompted you to do so?
The king needed engineers. I answered the call.
Not terribly talkative, are you?
I can build any bridge, any ballista, but to talk, well, It hurts to talk.
I see. Well, do not worry. I prefer deeds to words, in myself and others. Other matters await my attention. We shall speak later.
As you wish, my lady.
A pity Willem is not with us. Were he to see what lies before our eyes, caught a whiff of the burnt bodies, perhaps he would see with whom he now consorts, whom he allowed in our home with nary a fight.
If it be your majesty's wish, I shall send a rider to the prince with her.
I wish nothing of the sort. I will not correspond with the enemy.
Breach the walls, ploughing traitors. Where's the king? Why'd he leave us a black-clad mercy? They took everything. I'd head to the wood, but my fear of the Scoia'tael. Where's the king? What?
Meave's ears caught the sound of a ruckus coming from the camp.
Faith! Inglet! A pox upon you all!
It was her quartermaster, hurling oaths at the peasants she had freed from the Nilfgaardian slave convoy. A few had stolen supplies under the cover of darkness and escaped into the woods. Terror and dread gripped the other freed prisoners. Meave mulled over what to do with them, and Reynard, as always, offered some advice.
'Tis high time they went off on their own, your grace. They are too great a hindrance. They slow our march, divert our soldiers from more important tasks. And now this.
Gascon was listening to their conversation. Meave shot him a questioning look.
I opposed taking them in. So, for consistency, I now oppose forcing them to leave. We made their miserable lives our responsibility, did we not? Well then, that is a burden we cannot simply shrug off.
let us not mince words. We cast off these peasants now, they shall die.
Meve said in the end.
Let them stay. But I want them watched. They cause any more trouble, military justice they shall face. Understood?
The freed prisoners sighed with relief. The infantrymen assigned to watch over them, however, grumbled their disapproval of the Queen's decision.
"'Tis an army, not a shelter,"
they said. Meve's ears surely caught the complaint. But the Queen had never let the opinions of others guide her in such matters, trusting only her own judgment.
Not liking the looks of this,
Gascon said, furrowing his brow. Meve followed his gaze. Before them, beside the road, stood a hut with a scorched thatch roof.
Why?
Huts abandoned, yet dried fruit and mushrooms hang from the eaves. Famine raging all around and no one's been tempted. I'd send a scout if I were you.
The Queen did as Gascon suggested, and sent 3 infantrymen to reconnoiter. They entered the hut and found only silence, that was soon broken by a blood-curdling growl. The soldiers ran out at full speed, tripping over their own legs. Meve drew her sword, convinced a horde of neckers or ghouls would soon attack. But her fears proved unfounded. Instead of monsters, out of the hut came a shaggy dog, a torn scrap of fabric clutched in its teeth.
"Milady,"
one of the soldiers began, his face red with embarrassment and his hands covering a hole in his breeches.
"was dark as a well inside, and that hound, it jumped out at us, all of a sudden biting it and snapping."
Bad boy,
Gascon said with a smile, then pulled a hunk of dried sausage from his bag. Bought by this generous offering, the dog calmed down at once. Further examination showed the dog was the hut's only resident. Like many others in Aedirn, its owners had disappeared without a trace. Their loyal mutt still guarded the premises, waiting for his master's return.
let's take him with us.
Gascon said.
Otherwise, he'll die here, of his own hunger or someone else's.
A watchful sentry like this could prove useful in our camp.
Said the Queen.
Fine, he can join. But he shall need a name.
How about Reynard?
Proposed Gascon, a cheeky grin smeared across his face.
That way, he'll come when you call, sit on command, and always be a heel. Always heel, that is.
Watch your words,
said Reynard, hand tightly gripping the hilt of his sword.
or you'll learn I'm not at all as tame as you believe.
Enough, both of you. That's an order. As for you,
The Queen took a good look at the dog, who still had a scrap of fabric in his teeth.
since it seems you've a taste for the cloth of the nether regions, I dub you... Knickers. Will that do?
The dog wagged its tail vigorously, as if thoroughly pleased with its new name. Meve's company marched off, a furry new recruit richer.
match!
Ever have a storm knock out one of your teeth?
I smell a leak.
Stop your yapping and start digging.
Gonna need
3 buckets of nails and a tub full of pegs.
Niamh and her companions neared the Moulderwood, a dense, ancient forest of trees whose tangled branches had witnessed the conjunction of the spheres. It was not until King Vidamont's day that a road was finally carved through the primeval thicket, significantly shortening the journey from Rosberg to Aldersburg.
Even when peace reigns, danger rules this road.
Rayla said.
Now no one dares travel it.
At the edge of the wood, by the road, stood an enormous willow. Its branches swept down to cover its trunk, looking for all the world like long tresses shrouding a woman's face. Niamh had an ill premonition. She did not like the sickly sweet aroma wafting from this tree, nor the metallic buzzing of insect wings. She sent a scout to investigate. He drew aside the drooping branches and stumbled back. There were men bound to the tree, covered in sap oozing from gashes in its trunk. Its heavy scent had attracted swarms of insects, flies, wasps, bees and beetles. They seethed over the bound men, crawling in and out of their ears and nostrils.
Eldain welcomes us to his wood,
Rayla whispered. Niamh stepped towards the tree and saw the men stuck to it were all still alive. Those the elves had caught recently writhed and howled for rescue. Those hanging longer merely followed the Queen with half-crazed, bloodshot eyes.
to stand there all day!
Meve screamed to her dumbstruck Lyrians.
Free them! At once!
Her soldiers needed no more prompting and set about sawing at the ropes with their blades. As soon as they had freed the first captive, before even a word of thanks could be uttered, a flaming streak soared through the air and stuck in the tree. The oozing resin burst into flames, engulfing the prisoners as well as the soldiers who had come to their aid. Elder speech battle cries rang out from the woods as elven warriors launched their attack.
It's a trap!
Cried Reynard.
Defend the Queen!
Keep your heads in the fight! They'll seek to blind us with shock and awe!
Don't like this.
This could hurt.
Nay, Duanve camest.
Kill them! Kill them all!
Ever have a storm knock out one of your teeth?
Ha!
Dance of death! Ha! Ha!
Again and again and again.
I shall not fail!
Yeah, yeah!
Give me a time.
None shall tread on us!
Wow.
Company! Forward march!
Watch your heads!
have strength, my love. The storm is coming. Let's enjoy the weather while we still can.
You'll never take me alive!
If anyone asks, you've not seen me.
Don't let them regroup! Finish off the wounded!
The battle done, Meve surveyed the carnage, her breath still ragged. The thick stench of blood, sap, and ash she sucked in made her stomach churn and head swoon.
The Scoia'tael. I'd heard of their cruelty, but...
The queen said, sheathing her sword.
But never have I countenanced a thing like this.
Black Rayla, who had just extracted her blade from between an elven gorilla's ribs, smiled darkly.
Worst is yet to come, my lady.
The queen regrouped her forces and marched into the Moulderwood. The Lyrians sang none of their usual marching songs. Instead, they walked in silence, eyes darting constantly to their flanks.
Hear that? Nightingales. Unmindful of war, they sing on.
Those are no birds, my lady. Just Scoia'tael scouts use animal cries to communicate. Tell the men to hold to the road, my lady. Anyone wanders in the trees, they don't come out.
Dwan ve camest.
Watch your heads!
With humans? I buy that.
Hey?
Your tricks will not save you, Dwan.
I shall not fail! None shall tread on us!
Ever have a storm knock out one of your teeth?
Use it.
Oi! Hey there! Come here!
I've hit the white of an eye from half a league away.
Death to Old One!
Sod it. Sod it all.
Dwan Vakimest.
Watch your heads!
Peace with humans? Obey thus!
Catch!
Death to humans!
I've hit the white of an eye from half a league away.
Fine! If my coin's ranked to you, go kiss a dog neath its tail. I shall not fail!
Bigger they are, easier they are to target.
None shall tread on us!
Give me a time.
Dwarf!
Cursed traitors.
I'll feed you to the crows!
Quick and painful this'll be.
Marble is to your command. Armor won't save.
As you wish, milady.
One bolt's all I need. Give me a time.
I smell a leak.
Show me the coin or sod off.
No time for that!
Let us sing the song of steel.
An army's a waste of time for one like me.
Have it the white of an eye from half a league away.
I shall not fail!
Sod it. Sod it all.
None shall tread on us! Now we will see who is weak!
You mad? Don't shake that!
You're back!
Have strength, my love. The storm is coming. Let's enjoy the weather while we still can.
My spirit's willing and how, but these damn boots are killing me.
Blood and neck ends. Similian va.
Bigger they are, easier they are to target.
On the edge of the Moulderwood there stood a small village, Crumhorn. The hamlet was surrounded by a high palisade, while the villagers carried makeshift weapons, flails, axes, and nail-studded planks. Life as the Scoia'tael's neighbors was clearly not easy. While her men rested, Meve approached two of the villagers. They lowered their heads in respect and fidgeted nervously with their shirt hems.
My lady, reckon you ought to know. Elves meeting traders in the woods at night. Buy swords, herbs.
Rayla, who had overheard the conversation, twisted her mouth in a hateful scowl.
Hawkers stink worse than vermin. Willing to help murderers for coin. Please, milady, we must find them and punish them. You, talk. Where do these meetings take place?
The peasants looked at each other. One scratched his head, the other toed the sand. Finally, one of them blurted out,
Could tell you, my lady, yes, but only for gold.
I do not look kindly on extortion.
Meve replied, drawing her sword. The blade glistened in the sun, casting a bright light on the peasants' terrified faces.
I'm willing to forget this offense. If you tell me all you know, now.
Them orcas wheeled them goods to the old fishing hut north of here. Scoia'tael come a-crawling from the woods, the first crow of the cockerel.
The queen told her men to prepare to fight the Scoia'tael and their abettors. Black Rayla sat on a fallen trunk and sharpened her sword. The grinding of stone on blade sounded a grim promise.
I told you the Queen's no fish wife. I told you you'd do better not to haggle with her, that she'd eat you whole. I told you the Queen. I told you the Queen.
Meve arrived at the hut the villagers claimed to be the meeting point for the Scoia'tael and the Hawkers. Torchlight flickered amidst the trees, and she heard the sound of hushed voices.
Your Grace,
whispered Rayla.
They're in our grasp. We must act quickly before the elves retreat into the woods.
Quite a lot of them.
the Queen said, her brow furrowed.
We'd best fall back. Reynard, retreat.
Your Grace, we can't simply...
We can.
Meve said, cutting Rayla off.
My aim is not to pacify elven rebels, but to cross these woods and reach Aldersburg. We must match our actions to our intentions.
Rayla said nothing. She didn't have to. Her face was an open tome, writ large with frustration and anger.
I smell a leak.
You can try to win them all, but you won't.
Bigger they are, easier they are to target.
Sod it. Sod it all. Aye.
Blood and neck ends. Similian Vart.
Your breath will avenge us, Dwan!
One bullet's all I need.
of strength, my love.
Don't like this.
You'll regret your mum ever squirted you out.
This is elven land, Dwarf, upon which your kind dies.
Wait, you're serious?
Have we not passed this way before?
Scouts say no, Your Grace. They mark the trees.
Elves could have erased the marks, or left new ones where we've yet to tread. Best to follow the sun. Only way not to lose your bearings.
Maeve's path took her to the village of Eichenfurt. Unlike most settlements in the area, not a single human dwelled here. Instead, only elves and dwarves sat on its porches and stared at the passing Lyrians with clear aversion. Not a single greeting was extended to their allies in arms. Not a single peddler tried to hawk their wares. The only sound was that of snapping shutters and slamming doors.
Something's amiss,
Rayla said, furrowing her brow.
Order a halt, my lady, and give me a moment to look around.
You've a quarter of an hour.
Meve said as she dismounted.
And not a moment more.
The Queen sat in the shade of a large pear tree. She shut her eyes and listened to the chirping of crickets in the grass, savoring a rare moment of relaxation. But the calm did not last. Within moments, one of her scouts returned, a certain Sergeant Niedermere. Tears streamed down his weathered, scar-pocked face.
Lady? Come with us, please. You'll need to see this for yourself.
The sergeant led her to the still, smouldering remains of a mill. Her soldiers were picking things out from the ashes. When she got closer, she realized in horror they were human skulls. Some no larger than apples.
Tell the villagers to gather by the well.
The Queen said in a strained voice.
Or be executed.
The elves and dwarves attempted no denials. They admitted Eldain and his Scoia'tael had helped them round up all the humans in their village, march them into the mill, then set it aflame.
They stole our lands, defiled our names, beat us, murdered us in bloodthirsty pogroms,
shouted one of the dwarves.
They had it coming to them. Got their comeuppance, I'd say.
Meve was no stranger to the cruelty of war, but the enormous evil she found in Iconfurt overwhelmed her. She felt a terrible weight on her chest, found it hard to draw breath, and her head spun. She felt she could hear the cries of humans being burned alive.
Ma'am,
whispered Reynard.
You must pronounce something.
Or simply turn the matter over to me, Your Grace.
Rayla interrupted.
I know what to do.
You know what you deserve.
Meve said.
But my soldiers are neither murderers nor executioners, and you are not my subjects. So I shall have you escorted to Rosberg. Let the authorities there mete out justice. With a noose, I hope.
The Queen chose a dozen soldiers and tasked them with seeing the non-humans of Iconfurt tried by an Edirnian judge. In doing so, she weakened her forces, but saved herself and her Lyrians from having to carry out a bloody sentence by their own hand.